So, yeah.
All right, guys, can everyone hear me? About to start the panel with our guest of honor, Tim.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah, a little something for you, Tim. Look over there.
Oh, watch out. Yes.
Our guest of honor, properly made wrestling ball.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. No, I'm not. That's not me. That's cool, you guys. Holy shit. Who made this?
Freddie made this. Freddie's what we call the super fan.
He inspired my scratch building. Big time. It was really.
You have to wear that.
Freddie scratch built this, right?
Yes. Yeah. Now you can teach him what he did wrong with that.
Oh, yeah, I did wrong with it. Dude, I see seam lines and nubs and all that. Like, yeah. Hey, Freddie. Looks like my. Looks like my trophy. All right. What's that? Yeah, right? Put it over your shoulder. Rock and roll, man. All right. So, we got 45 minutes, right?
Yeah, all the time you want.
Yeah, don't tell Freddie that. He's going to shit over his time
Well,
if I do that.
Freddie's one that made this complex.
Wow. Yeah. I'll keep it at 45. All right.
Always.
I ran with it. Play calm.
All right, so.
Mike?
Yeah, Mike. All right, so. All right, let me get this. All right. Who wants to learn scratch building? Anybody?
Yeah.
Right, get your butts over here. Come on. All right. Pick up the chairs and bring them close. Come on. This isn't a sit in your seats type of thing. This is a get close type of thing. This is an intimate type of thing. You got to learn by watching. So let's get over here. Come on, everybody. Let's do some scratch building.
Actual chairs and just kind of stand around.
Whatever you want. Whatever's comfortable, brother. Boom. There we go. Yep. Come on. Let's get close.
Yeah, we are.
All right. So. All right. I'm used to this. All right, so scratch building, you guys. Scratch building is basically making something that doesn't exist, right? Out of materials that are raw materials. Plastic. This is styrene, better, in some circles, claw plate. Claw plate, honestly, is just styrene sheet. It's Tamiya's brand of styrene sheet. So when people say plow plate, they mean styrene sheet. Fair? All right. So this is your predominant material of choice that basically what you're going to be scratch building with. There are different thicknesses. There are different shapes and things like that. Let's see. You've got obviously plates. This usually comes in 1/4 millimeter, 1/2 millimeter, and 1 millimeter. You can get it in thicker plates and things, but that's predominantly what you're going to use most of the time. 1/4 mil and 1/2 mil are going to be used for your detail pieces, adding armor, details, things of that nature. 1 millimeter is predominantly going to be used for structural purposes, and then if you want to gain like a heavy armor look, like a super ironclad type look, right? Then you go with 1 mil, because when you're talking about a 1/100 scale model, a 1/44 scale model, these things are so incredibly small that even a 1 millimeter plate is going to look super, super thick on these things. Okay, so you need to be careful in terms of scale, and that's what I always talk about, is the illusion of scale. Okay, that's really, really important, and that's crucial, especially when it comes to scratch building, customizing, all that fun stuff. Again, you can get them in strips. I highly recommend these. These are by Evergreen Plastics. There's also another company called Plastruct. Plastruct's plastic is really good, but it's a lot more expensive than Evergreen. And plus, Evergreen you can buy directly from their website. I do it all the time. It's very, very inexpensive. You can get these strips in packs of like 10, 25. You can get them in packs of like 100, I think. And it's very, very economical when it comes down to it. So as you can see, plates I use for different shapes and things, strips. Man, I use these more than anything else. The strips, the rods, tubes, all that good stuff. And they come in a bunch of different sizes. Obviously, this is 1mm by 4mm, and then I also have, I don't even know if I can grab this little guy. This is 0.5mm by 1/4mm. Very, very small detail that you can gain with this type of thing. This particular strip is very, very situational though, which all of this stuff is going to be very situational. These are 0.5mm plates. Obviously, I cut these for something else. But beyond the materials, you're going to be using a ton of different tools. This tool right here, the Chopper 2, you guys, I cannot stress the importance of this particular tool enough. This, if you're getting into scratch building, if you want to do customizing or something like that with plate or strip or whatever, this is golden. This is absolutely just the #1 thing that I can recommend, because it will absolutely change the way that you build. Basically what this is, it's like a guillotine. It's almost like a miter saw. If you guys are familiar with miter saws at all, obviously it has an articulated arm. There's a razor blade in here that you can swap out. There's a little set screw in here that you can just swap the blade out when it gets dull. Nice little cutting mat right here, and then you've got these different triangles here. It's got a hard 90 for you can use that as a stop block for repeatable cuts. Those are beautiful when you need to have exact cuts. So this is a good one, but it also has a 30-degree angle, 60-degree angle, and a 45-degree angle. You can bevel plates with this thing. You can cut dymo tape for scribing with this thing and get super precise templates for panel line scribing and things like that. This tool, it will absolutely change the way you build. It's not an inexpensive tool, I will tell you that right now. It's probably, if you search online, you'll probably find it for around, and it depends on the place, between 35 and some places are charging 50 bucks for it. But it's nice, solid cast aluminum. This thing is not going to break on you. There's no give to the arms. There's no wiggle to it. This tool, above all else, is amazing. Beyond that, a solid hobby knife is going to be like your best friend. This is an Olfa hobby knife. This is their design art knife. You can get these on Amazon for like $5. You can get these in Lowe's hardware stores too. This exact knife. This one has the chisel blade, which you cannot get in Lowe's. Where's my other one here? You can also get the utility knife at Lowe's. Very, very convenient there. Yeah, here we go. So this is the design art knife, right? If you guys have ever seen the Tamiya art knife, this is the same exact thing. It's just rebranded. Olfa makes their knives. This is the thing. You can get this for so much cheaper than the Tamiya knife. It's the same exact blades. The whole thing is the exact same thing. Highly recommend these. These are like $5 on Amazon. A little bit more expensive, obviously, in Lowe's. You got to pay for their costs, tax, and all that good stuff. But still very, very economical. You can get blades of like 25, the whole 9 yards. The other thing that I really recommend, this is a chisel blade. Just a flat blade, right? Love this thing because this will help you not only make super really precise little cuts, but when you're trying to match up two surfaces that may be uneven, you use one surface as a guide and you swipe right down it and you even that surface up just like butter. It's awesome. What else? Nice little wave T-square. These come in two sizes, right? Little and big. Get what you want. They're awesome. You're gonna need to go abroad for these, so places like Hobby Search, 1999.co, whatever. That's my vendor of choice. I love them. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, so don't think that. I've just had so much luck with those guys. They ship fast. They have tools in stock all the time. Love these things. So those are going to be your predominant tools in scratch building. These right here are going to be basically your entry level type of tools, right? You don't need a T-square. I mean, you can just get just like one of these metal L squares, or I mean, even just a metal ruler like this will get you in the ball game, right? I really like a nice digital caliper. This is just a super cheap one. This was like 15 bucks on Amazon. You don't need like a machinist caliper or anything like that. We're not working in those tight of tolerances, right? So a nice caliper is good too. A nice set of tweezers. These are just kind of reverse grip tweezers. These are really, really nice. But you know, those are the types of things that we will use in scratch building to make these things come to fruition. You know, you can get into files, you can get into drill bits, all sorts of things. But you know, we're gonna try to keep it as simple as possible. Check time, rock and roll. Okay, nippers too, another good one, but they're not necessarily crucial. But chances are you're gonna have these anyways because you're working on models, right? So these are good too. I like these Tamiya ones. These are the Tamiya, I think, 35s. The 123s are probably a little bit better. There's three different models of Tamiya nippers that they have available. This I think is the 35, but the 123s are a little bit better. So they're like 20, 25 bucks on Amazon. So inexpensive, right? Okay, so beyond that, you have option parts from different companies too. So, you know, they're just these little runners of option parts. These are just little detail pieces, and they come in all shapes, in all sizes, and all sorts of varieties, right? Like this one here is from Wave, and these are all vents and boosters and things like that. Nice. These are by Kotobukiya. All the rest of these are by Kotobukiya. This is just like a little vent and little X plates. They add so much nice little detail to your piece that you're scratch building or customizing. Wonderful there too. And then they have a whole variety of different, you know, circular molds, minus molds, things like that. Awesome. And then they have like these little vents and boosters here too. They have like 30, 40 different styles of option parts. And then you can get, you know, like weapon sets and all sorts of other add-ons. So your limitations are minuscule when it comes to scratch building. So actually doing it, that's the trick. To commit. Oh, hi. So I'm going to be working fast today, right? Normally what I would use is like Tamiya Extra Thin or Plastic Magic from Deluxe Materials. Those are my two glues of choice. But today I'm going to be using standard Loctite. This is the Ultra Liquid Control. Love this super glue because it is not that brittle compared to others. Dries pretty quick, and it's relatively inexpensive, and it's very, very easy to find. I just get I clear out my local Home Depot of these things like every few months. These are great. And this stuff sticks like crazy. So we're going to be doing this today. I'm going to be using that. And sorry, man, go ahead. And so we're going to be building something. So we're just free-forming today, right? I'm not going to build anything specific. Maybe like I don't know, maybe like a power box or something like that. Just something maybe that you can add on to your next piece to accent something that you like, right? So we're going to start with plastic sheet. We're going to use probably all this stuff just to build it up. So, all right, so let's get started. We're going to pull the L square out here. We're going to get our stop block. We're going to put that off to the side. Always work in metric. I know it's hard for us in the States, but always work in metric. It's just easier that way because all of these, most of these tools are in metric. Most of the strips and plate thicknesses and things like that are in metric. Most of these parts are measured in metric. Always work in metric if you are comfortable with it. So, all right. So we're going to cut some plate. So what I do is pop the L square in here, and then I get kind of the length that I want. So we're going to go right there, about 13 millimeter. So we use the hard stop right there. We lock it in place. This will provide us a repeatable cut. So we just go in, we pop that. Pop that. What are you? Bad touch.
There's no such thing as a bad touch.
Fair. So, all right.
Hi, Tim.
Hi, babe. Oh, cool. Yeah. Rock and roll. Freddie didn't hook it up very well, did he?
Oh, this is Freddie we're talking about.
Wow. Yeah. All right. So, obviously, two exact cuts, same length, everything. And then obviously, since these are extruded, these are complete solid lengths all the way down, thicknesses. These are 100% exact. So these are going to be our lengths. So we're going to shorten this up. We're going to bring it down, and I'm just, for demo's sake, we're just choosing a random length here. So we're going to pop these, pop that. All right. So now, since we're building a box, we have our 4 beginning sides, right? We're going to set this off to the side, give us some space to work. All right, so start popping this thing together here. This is where the super glue comes into play. And like I said, we're going to work fast today because we don't have a lot of time. Alright, so right along the side. And this may not be pretty, but it'll be something. Alright, so there's that.
How much working time do you have before the super glue sets?
You have a few seconds. The more you use, the less time you have. But yeah, I mean, it's normal super glue. You got a few seconds. Let's put it that way. Probably about 15 or so seconds. All right. There's that. Let's get this other side on here. Now this is pretty fragile right now, but once we put a top onto this thing and a bottom, it'll solidify completely and be very durable. Now, obviously this isn't a nice, finely crafted model like Bandai makes. This is raw building in its truest form. So there's going to be points where you get super glue on your fingers, and you have to worry about that. So, but that's fine. So there's our basis for our box, right? So now we got to put a top on this thing. So that's where the actual plate comes into play. So we're gonna put our box right off to the side here. Don't lose that. Now we are going to kind of cut a strip of this. Like that. All right. So now what we do is put our top on. Now, keep in mind, this is what I'm doing right now today, just for demo's sake, is very, very simplistic. The sky's the limit with scratch building, right? You can build anything that your mind comes up with, practically. It's just a matter of looking at the form, because, like I say in some of the other classes that I put on, all scratch building is, it's just geometry. Is finding the basic shapes in the form and building those basic shapes. And then from there, detailing it and making it, basically fine-tuning it. So, like you've seen, there's a lot of overhang, right? That's what we want. We don't ever want to try and cut a piece to the exact specifications to this box. You just don't want that. You want room for error, right? So now what we do is we come back in with our nippers. So I'm going to use these. And we're just going to trim this up pretty rough. Be careful. These things fly out. Alright, we're going to trim that up pretty rough, but we're going to get it close, right? And then we'll come back in with our hobby knife and really flush it up. Alright, so there. Very, very rough cut up there. So now we can use our little bit more detailed nippers to really get close and kind of get us really in the ballpark of where this shape is, right? Alright. So now it's a little bit more trimmed up. So then what I like to do is come in with the hobby knife and then just use the sides as a guide to cut the top, right? So place your blade right onto the surface and just ride along that surface and just gently push. If you have to push with any great pressure, replace the blade, because there's nothing worse than trying to push this blade along and it hitting a less dense area of plastic and then jamming into the fat part of your hand. There's nothing worse than that. I've never had that happen, mind you, but I've seen it happen to other people, and that's not fun. It doesn't look like much fun. So you're probably gonna need some stitches, and your hand's gonna hurt for a long time, right? So if you're, like I said, if you're using pressure, replace the blade. Blades don't cost that much. Medical bills, unfortunately, do. Alright, so using like an art knife like this, just one method, right? Tons of different methods, because you're basically getting to an end point. No matter what path you take, as long as you still get to that end point, that's what's important. So using the chisel blade, this is what I'm talking about evening surfaces up here. I just let that ride right across the surface, and it just evens it up really, really nice. And you may need to do more than one pass on this, because trying to get every bit of plastic off in one pass is just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Hey, what's up, Dan?
I wanted to scream like a girl watching the Beatles, you know.
You still can. Dan Salas, everybody. Dan Salas. He's here all weekend.
Good to see you here.
Thank you, brother. What are you doing? Oh, now I'm gonna move over here. All right. So once you get this thing trimmed up, then we can start to really kind of get fancy with it and really start to trick this thing out. Because there are different methods that we can use to add detail to this thing. And I'm just rough trimming this right here, so this isn't going to be perfect, but for demo's sake, you guys get the idea. Alright, so that's good enough. Now, another thing, get a sanding block. These are from Hobby Made. It's a company in Singapore. I got these with a book. These are add-ins. These are just acrylic, just a hard piece of acrylic, laser cut, and it's got double-sided tape, and it's got just sandpaper that you can get at a hardware store on it. You don't need these. you can make these out of like 1/4-inch MDF, medium density fiberboard, which you can also get at like Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that. Just cut it down into little strips. MDF is completely solid. It's very, very stable. It's not going to warp on you or expand or contract like wood does. So MDF and to make something like this is great as well. So, well, yeah, that kind of goes without saying, but yeah, that MDF soaks up water like a sponge, and that's never fun. So, you know, just trim up the, flush up the sides with a little sanding block here. Get these really, really nice, ultra smooth. That's good enough. So, some of the detail parts that you can kind of add into this. We're going to worry about these later, but what I'm talking about in terms of detail are things that you can add on, like with plastic. So, let's use some of this 1/2 mil. And we're going to cut a little bit of that out. Let's see. Just like that. So now, got, you know, a nice little rectangular piece. Like you can see, it flies off. So we're going to pull our triangles back into play. And I'm going to show you what I mean, how to bevel these things. So when you want to bevel, it's basically cutting the corners off, right? What I like to do here is measure very, very small. Because what you're going to find is the length from the blade to the stop block is going to double when you actually go to bevel. Meaning that if you have a 1/2 millimeter space between those two, it's going to be a 1 millimeter bevel, right? So I'll show you what I mean here in a second. All right, so we have a very, very tight tolerance between this. Using our, whoop, that's the wrong angle. Using our 45-degree angle, we set that right up against the blade. And now this goes right in there, and that corner is going to stop on the stop block. And now, that's super hard to see, but you can definitely see the little bevel. Doesn't want to focus. There. Oh, we had it. We had the focus. We had the. No. Anyway, so let me exaggerate the bevel a little bit for you guys here, so you guys can see a little bit better. There's that. All right. So there's what I'm talking about with the bevel, right? You guys can see that over there? Yeah. You guys see this over here? See how it has cut the corners and everything? That's beveling. That gives it a little bit of a better mechanical looking feel rather than just having straight corners. Because if you look at the Gundam overall aesthetic in kits, you're not going to see hard angles. You're not going to see hard corners a lot of the times. You're going to see bevels. You're going to see chamfers. You're going to see weird kind of shapes, you know, because it's science fiction, right? So that's kind of the idea that you want to go for. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do what's called strapping. Strapping is basically having a detail piece come up one side and then wrap around and strap over the next side. And it's going to look like one solid piece going all the way around, right? So what we do, we have our piece right now, same thickness. So we're just going to cut this right about there. We don't want this thing to fly off because we need both pieces, right? So I'm going to set those aside right there. And now, super glue, tweezers. What are we looking at for time? Oh, I didn't start. Oh, so we're going to place our side piece on here first. Okay. And you want some overlap. You want it to come up and over because you want to be able to trim this flush with the surface. That's the most important thing when doing something like this. You want room for error. You want to give yourself that ability to be able to trim it back, because once this thing is on there, it's hard to get it off, right? So we've got that. We've got overhang on both sides. Now we can come in with nippers or a blade or whatever and really flush this thing up with the surface. And just use your surface as the guide, right? So all I'm doing here is setting one of the sides of the blades on here and just snipping it back, and it's basically flush almost completely. What's up?
Can I just interrupt you?
Yeah. How much time?
I'm not rushing you. I just wanted to use the mic.
Oh, you want to use the mic?
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks for coming out. Just want to let you know we got 10 minutes before the first raffle, so if you want to grab some tickets before we do that first raffle, go on by and get some tickets. All right, thanks.
Thanks, Tim.
Get your tickets now. All right.
Please come buy tickets.
Go buy tickets.
They're not paying me. Please help.
Oh, I love SCGMC, you guys. All right, so now we have this strapping detail, this side back piece that's completely flush on both top and bottom, right? Yeah. So we're gonna use this other piece now, the bevel piece, as our strap over the corner. Alignment is crucial with something like this. You want to take your time, and I realize a demo is not the best example of taking my time, but you work with what you got, right? All right. So there's that. Now we do the same thing. We just flush this up. I use this. All right, so now, see how that is strapped over? See that? See? Good. All right, so that's this is a big thing that a lot of people use to customize their kits and get a really nice, different look, right? I use this particular technique a lot in all of my builds. It's just one of my go-to types of things. Back on the middle table, I have my Hummingbird and the Ozymandias. You can see examples of this particular technique all over those pieces. I just love this because if you take a scriber, right? That doesn't help later. Simple BMC chisels. You outline this thing with a scribe. You basically just follow the shape and you scribe a line in around it. What it's going to ultimately look like is a separate piece. It's going to look like it's kind of molded into the piece. Think, if you will, like a muscle car. You know how the headers come out of the hood sometimes, and the hood is perfectly formed to that, right? Same type of thing, right? So I really, really love this technique, and you can get crazy with it. You can do wide straps, you can do little straps, you can do something like this. You can use like these little itty bitty little deals here too. So this is kind of just a beginning part of kind of just like a power box, like you would add on to the back of your model, like on a backpack, or maybe the back of the leg or something like that. Who knows, wherever you want to put it, right? So now we kind of are going to jazz this thing up and really kind of bring it to life. So let's see, what do we do? Okay, so one of the aesthetics that is very prominent in Gunpla are using like little detail pieces like this, and I'll show you what. Oh, actually, look at this. All right, so this this piece right here, which was just laying on the side here, I don't even know why, kind of shows you. This actually has notches in it. Now, there are two kinds of aesthetics that I'm talking about. Notches are depressions, but then there's also what are basically additions, you know, raised panel details, raised armor details. So here, you can kind of see the notches in this. Yeah. See it up on both sides. Whoa. Yeah. So all around, everybody see the notches in that thing? Those are pre-molded, right? You can add notches if you want later in the day, or and this is what I do sometimes, is add raised detail, and both are very, very prominent, you know, in Gunpla. So using this, you're working small here at this point too. And this is probably 1.5 millimeters. This isn't big at all, right? So now I'm going to need a special, bit of a special tool. Here we go. All right. So in terms of hobby knives, this is your standard, you know, normal hobby knife that pretty much everybody's familiar with, right? This size, this barrel thickness. This, on the other hand, is a hobby knife from NT Cutter. It's a Japanese company. You can actually get these on Amazon. That's where I got this. You can see the differences in sizes on this thing. This is for very, very fine work. These blades come in 45 and 30 degree shapes. These are actually becoming kind of my go-to hobby knife now. I didn't think they would, but I'm using this more and more for very fine detail pieces. Now for things like this, you're not going to be able to pick them up with your fingers, number one, and you're not going to be able to pick them up with tweezers because you're going to have more glue on the tweezers than you're going to get on the piece. So these are out when you're talking about these little itty bitty details. So just kind of basically just poke the piece with your hobby knife just a little bit. Nothing crazy, right? And then just want to get the glue going, and you just want to basically touch the piece to the glue. Now, if you're lucky, the piece won't come off the blade, but it'll take the glue. There you go. Half the time it comes off and it sticks to the glue bottle, just because they're so small. Very tiny parts, but this makes a huge difference. I'll show you the end product here in just a second. This is the reason why I wanted you all to come around so you could see this, because you're never going to see it on the screen, right? And this is mind you, this is a mess. Neither one of these are going to be straight, so keep that in mind. All right, yeah, it looks like hell. All right. Anyway, it expresses the point. So we're gonna show this around. So see what I'm talking about there? That raised detail there? That's very prominent in Gunpla. Yeah. Hang on just a second. You guys want to come in and see this? Yeah, a little raised detail on that piece. Yeah. So that adds so much pop to your model, you guys. I'm telling you. Go ahead.
Or you can just see this.
What's
to say that all the guest judges need to report to the front desk.
Attention, guest judges, please report to the front.
Is that good? Yeah. All right. I use my announcer voice for that one. I know, right? I do voiceovers sometimes too for work, so it's a natural thing. All right, so that's kind of the beginning part. And like I said, this is a mess. I would spend so much more time on refining this, making sure that it's evened up, the spaces are aligned properly, the whole 9 yards. This is simply for demo's sake, so please don't think that this is an example of my work quality. So we got that set. Now let's turn to one of these things and kind of pull these into gear, because we're going to use a couple of these. These are out of the question. These I like. These maybe. These definitely. Let's see. Yeah, we can use these too. All right, cool. So we're going to toss these off to the side because those are a little bit out of the question. We're going to use probably all 4 of these in some way. So now these can get to tiny pieces. These can get 1.5 millimeter, 2 millimeter in diameter little shapes, right? So very, very small pieces sometimes. With these plates, some of these very, very small ones will just crack in your hands and there's nothing. What's up, John? So you got to be careful with these. Even with very fine nippers, it's just the way these things are molded. It's just gonna happen. Wow. Pulling out the slider? Yeah. All right. Rock and roll. B-roll. Respect. All right. So for this, we're gonna pop a vent on here, and no, that's too big. I like that. Okay. So when you're adding details, when you're scratch building and customizing like this, you want to keep, number one, the mechanics of things in mind. Or at least I do. But at the same vein, you also want to look and keep aesthetics in mind too, because that's really important. Because if it's mechanically sound and it doesn't look good, then why do it? Because we're building science fiction models that are not real. Part of it is absolute aesthetic, right? But there's always that illusion of scale. So we're gonna trim this up real quick. Okay. All right. And again, this type of part, it's hard to deal with these on tweezers because they're so thin. So with this, just kind of jam the hobby knife right into one of the kind of corners of one of these vents. It's perfect. Little dab of glue, and then we're gonna pop it right on here. And that's way too much glue, but you can kind of see the aesthetic on this, right? There's a lot of glue squeeze out, so don't mind that, right? Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
So, for example, like what would you do in that instance if you had too much glue?
If you have too much glue, quickly wipe as much as you can away immediately, but you're not going to get everything, right? So what I would say is let it dry, let it cure completely, come back with your hobby knife, and just kind of very lightly trim that glue around the piece. It works perfectly. All right, so we got our first piece on here to start to bring this thing to life, right? Let's start using one of these pieces. Now, this is from Wave. These are from Kotobukiya. I primarily use Kotobukiya just because they have such a huge variety of parts. But Wave has some decent parts too, don't get me wrong. They're just not as nice as Koto. There's also Bandai's builder parts, but they're somewhat lacking in my opinion compared to Kotobukiya. Kotobukiya's been doing the option parts for so long. They've just got it to a science. So I just like their brand so much better. All right. Online, yeah. Like Hobby Link Japan, Hobby Lobby, really?
Yeah.
I
buy it. That's how I get all my stash.
Oh, rock and roll then. Hobby Lobby.
Not Hobby Lobby. Ami.
You're killing me. You're killing me, John.
Sorry.
Come on. Ami. Ami's one. Yes. Me personally, I like I said before, Hobby Search. They have such a variety. They ship very quickly, and man, it's just they're a great store. I would buy from them over anybody, especially Hobby Lobby. All right, so
Ami, A-A-M-I, and then A-M-I again. Thank you. Among the three, they're all about similar price and everything. You might find an edge in shipping, it depends. Ami, you tend to save a bit more if you do EMS, if you do a big order. If you're willing to wait, there's shipping, just cheap.
Two arguments when it comes to aesthetics in Gundam. Symmetry, asymmetry, right? You see both. And you do want to sometimes sprinkle a little bit of both in your scratch building, right? To match the aesthetic that you're adding on to, right? So for this, I'm going symmetrical with both of these on each side, right? So see how it's on both sides? Give it a set of ears, looking pretty good, right? Right? Looking good? All right, so now maybe go a little asymmetrical here. So let's pull this little guy back in, and we're gonna cut a little bit of a longer strip. Where'd it go? Oh, it didn't cut. Shit. Sorry. My fault. All right, so now we've got a little bit of a longer strip. This is about, I'd say, 5 millimeter. And we're gonna do something asymmetrical with this. Come on, there we go. Cool. All right. So we're just gonna put this on the side. Alright. And it's just basically just an interesting little detail, you know? There's no scientific reasoning behind it. It just adds to the aesthetic, right? So just a simple little power box. You can tack this on anywhere, right? So that is kind of your finished piece, all from plastic sheet, option parts, super glue, and a little bit of ingenuity. Realistically, scratch building is, I know, looked upon as some sort of magic, but it's not, you guys. Like, it's actually pretty simple when you break it down to basic techniques. Like I said, what is that? That's geometry. That's a box, you know? It's just a box. You can build way more complicated stuff. How much time? Right on time?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm tying it together right now.
Thanks.
Yeah, love you.
I love you more.
So yeah. So when you start to think about scratch building, just think back to your days at school learning geometry. We may not have been all great at geometry, but that's all that it is, right? It's all shapes. It's all, you know, rectangles and triangles, and, trapezoids, and I don't know what, rhombus or whatever, you know? So that's all that it is. If you look at it in those basic outlook, it's going to become so much easier, and you're going to be able to start whipping these things out like crazy. And that's what scratch building is. So hopefully you guys learned a little something. Yeah? Cool. All right. So hey, check. Yeah. Sure. Absolutely.
The chopper.
Yes.
So you still making it?
No. I bought it. Well, this isn't even mine, but you can buy it online. You can get it.
I mean, they stopped. Yeah.
Did they?
We cannot get any longer.
I found it on like Amazon and stuff. Yeah, Amazon. It's hard to get. Let's put it that way. They still make it, but it's hard to get.
They still make it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Last time I checked, Evergreen, the plastic makers, they actually have that online on their shop. Yeah, evergreenplastics.com. Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, guys. So, hey, check me out, childofmecha.com. I stream every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's going to be a little sparse here until the new year, but hey, Julius watches, right? John, you watch sometimes, right? Yeah. So, yeah. Well, you know, it's one of those things. But yeah, I go over these things. I build, answer questions. We have a good time. You know, we goof off the whole 9 yards. The chat is amazing. So if you have time on Monday, Wednesday, or Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern, swing by YouTube, Twitch, or whatever. But yeah, childofmecha.com, on Facebook, on Instagram, all that stuff. So hit me up. If you got questions, shoot me a message. I would be happy to answer them for you. So John knows what I'm talking about. Julius knows what I'm talking about. Yeah. So. Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Round of applause. Yeah.
Did it.
May I ask something?
Sure.
When you're using the chisel to scrape the